Okay, we're going to go ahead and get started at 6 o'clock. I'm going to call the meeting of the San Joaquin County Election Advisory Committee to order, 6 p.m. The first item on the agenda is the Pledge of Allegiance. If you could please stand with me, and Christian will lead us in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right. Thank you, Christian. All right, we'll go ahead and proceed with the roll call. So if it's okay with everyone, I'd like to do just kind of self-introduce each of us, and that can serve as our roll call. Will that work?
Yes.
Yeah, okay, so we'll start with Janice.
Janice Vermeulen.
Amy Rubio.
Christian Santos, alternate member, District 1.
Christina Gonzaga.
David Cushman, Vice Chair, District 3.
Pat Barrett, District 6.
District 1.
One. Wrong building.
Thank you. So we have 3 regular members present, and I believe 2 absent. We do have a quorum? Yes, okay. All right, so you should have the minutes from the previous meeting in front of us, and they were emailed out a couple days ago. If you want to take a look at those real fast, and then I'll entertain a motion to approve the minutes from the last meeting.
I make a motion to accept.
Okay, is there a second?
I second that motion.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded.
Mr. Cushman, I'd recommend that you have the primaries make the motion,
Okay.
and second the motion.
So Patricia made the motion, and then a second. Christina. Second by Christina. Okay, any discussion? Okay, all those in favor of approving the minutes, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions?
Do I have to oppose since I wasn't here last? Can I make the motion if I wasn't here last month?
You should abstain if you,
Okay,
Aren't in
so
a
I have to
position to.
abstain, but can I make the motion?
no, and you weren't either?
I wasn't here either.
Okay,
Then we have to table it.
I'd recommend that we postpone that to a future meeting then. They only act in the absence of a primary, which I can't read the card, so I don't even know if we have enough present.
Well,
Us three were
yeah,
Then no, I don't think you have even the alternates available to move this.
so we can table that then to the next meeting. Okay. I'm looking at last. Okay, so we're on to item number 3, discussion items, action or possible action requested. So that would be discussing feasible methods of surveillance and monitoring of vote-by-mail ballot drop boxes for possible recommendation to the Registrar of Voters. So again, I wasn't here last month, but I know at the prior month we did have a discussion. We heard a presentation on drop boxes and possible surveillance monitoring. So I wanted to know if we can, if anyone would, and anyone's welcome to speak on this if you'd like. But does anyone have any thoughts on that presentation, and do you have any thoughts on drop boxes and can speak to this item?
I did go back and watch that video. I was not present at the meeting, but I know that there was a reference about the fire departments being able to have drop boxes and there being cameras. There, in all 5 stations in my city, there are no cameras in or outside of those buildings. So just wanted to make the group aware of that.
Do we know if that's true for every city or as far as Manteca?
I can't
that's-
speak for any of the surrounding agencies or districts.
Mhm. Okay. Yeah, Olivia?
Through the chair. So most fire stations don't even have parking really available, let alone a place where we can store them. If you look throughout many of the fire stations, I'm thinking right now the one in City of Stockton, over there off of Tam O'Shanter and Swain area, there's not really a way to affix a box there. And something else to keep in mind is we use many of our fire stations for polling places, and because we are traditional polling place, we're gonna need a lot of locations, and so when you have a drop box installed at the same location, you don't get credit for that drop box or that polling place because they kind of cancel each other out, so you can't double count those, if that makes sense. And so my recommendation professionally would be that we save our fire stations for the ability to use them as polling locations, because those tend to be within neighborhoods, and sometimes if there's no other facility available, they can be the polling place for that location, or for that area and that precinct.
Just a question, is there anything specifically prohibiting placing a drop box at a site that serves as a polling location on Election Day?
There's nothing that would not allow that, but I would remind you that every polling place will have a box where a vote by mail can also be dropped off inside the location. So it wouldn't really, I mean, it wouldn't create a problem, but it also would maybe be confusing to the voter, because they're not sure, do they have to put it in that box? Should they go inside and put it in the box? We would be changing a bit of a process.
Yeah, does anyone else have anything? Christian?
Excluding fire, because I think, is it because of the fact, is there like an alternative to like a different 24-hour agency? I mean, there's police, medical, and fire. Let's just parking lot the fire for a second. What about police or medical facility, which is 24 hours? Is that a possibility?
So through the chair, so if a police station actually would not work, because you can't, it's voter intimidation, so there's something in the election code that references, I know this sounds a little crazy to you guys, but this is really a big thing, like we're not supposed to have armed, uniformed officers at a polling location because of voter intimidation, so to require them to drop their ballot off at a police station would not be fit, and that would create issues, definitely.
Well, I know that in immediate past elections in Manteca, I live in Manteca, there's been a drop box at City Hall, which is the same complex property as the police station in Manteca. So I'm wondering if, we have police stations that kind of fit that mold in terms of, if there's another building on site close by, would that serve to work, under that circumstance?
Well, I would say that all city halls are used. I think that's important for you all to know. And many of the city halls have the cameras available. And our goal in our office is to try to choose locations that have surveillance available already at that location. So there is going to be a strong effort on our part to ensure that as many of these boxes as possible can be placed under some sort of city or county surveillance if it exists.
Again, just another question on the police station and the rule you mentioned. So would a drop box placed on the sidewalk immediately outside the police station, would that still work?
I would have to double check that in the code, but again, voter intimidation, I can imagine there would be a lot of concern around that. We definitely have to check into if that could be an option. But off the top of my head, I would say no, but I'm happy to go back and double check and find some more information on that regarding the concerns around the voter intimidation rules and regulations.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm just thinking, if we're talking about drop boxes, this is a situation where voters aren't interacting with anyone. They're dropping their ballot in a box, usually solitary. So as far as the intimidation aspect of it, that would be where I have the question, if they're not actually interfacing face-to-face with just
Definitely.
a thought. But,
yeah, well, we can look into that and
yeah.
bring that back, definitely.
Mm-hmm. So does anyone else have any thoughts on this item that you'd like to share? No? Okay, so if it's okay with everyone, and we can do a motion for this if that's okay, but since I would like to still make a recommendation on this topic, but since we don't, I prefer to do it when we have more of our members here. So as far as making a recommendation on this specific issue, I would, with the consent of the committee, like to table that to our next meeting. I would be open to it if we can do it now, or does that have to wait till the public comment section? Okay, yeah.
And through the chair, something to add, my office did extensive research on this topic, and I think I shared that earlier in the week. I'd like the opportunity to prepare the information that we had available regarding this, because there's saying, oh, let's just put a camera right here at this drop box. There's a lot more that goes into that logistically, and cost and budget and many, many things that I'd like to be able to bring that information to the committee at the next meeting if possible.
Okay, so if there's any member of the public that would like to speak on this, I will open this section up as it relates to specifically surveillance and monitoring of drop boxes. Do we have any members of the public that would like to comment? No? Okay, I don't see anyone. Okay, so in that case, we will, with the consent of the committee, table this item to our next meeting. Okay, no objections. Okay, so on to number 4, presentations and reports. Receive a status update from the Registrar of Voters on the Adopt a Polling Place program.
So we were actually able to get the Adopt a Poll application up on our website, so I just wanted to show you how you would access that on our website. I will share that we've had 3 people reach out for a polling place survey. So we're going out to actively survey 3 new locations to see if they make the ADA requirements so we can utilize them. And then we've had 1 person inquire about Adopt a Poll. So of course, getting the information out there and readily available will be helpful. I've instructed our outreach team to start posting on social media about the Adopt a Poll program, and they'll begin sharing the link. I think they may have done a post today, but they will definitely start Monday posting about the Adopt a Poll program. So if you go to our website, right here we have some key information, current election and such, and so right here we've added Adopt a Poll program. We put it here, it's an important topic, so we put it with our main topic points when you go to the home page of our website. So you go to SJCROV, or you can go to the county website and click on our department, and it'll bring you right to this page, and you'll click on Adopt a Poll program. So here is an interactive form that they would fill out. It gives them the information. They're able to provide all the information about the organization, how many people they have to recruit for their polling place, what area of San Joaquin that they're interested in, and how did they hear about the program. So this was very much mirrored from Solano County, so we were able to utilize this. Once a person fills this out and submits it to our office, what will happen is the precinct operations team will then send them a link to our election officer application. So everyone has to fill out an application so we can get them into the system for training and also to pay them. They will need to fill this out. Again, it's an interactive application. At the bottom here, they would be able to select Adopt a Poll program, so then it'll flag our team to know that they are participating in the Adopt a Poll program. And then we will be able to pair the team leader with their people, get everyone into the system, and ensure that they get assigned one of our locations. Now, it works 2 ways. If there's a club or organization, or as I shared, all of our polling locations, when we asked if they were available this election, we also asked if they were interested in providing their own staff for the location. And so cards are coming in. I'm unaware of any cards that we've gotten back yet that they've said, yes, I want to staff my own polling place. It'd be kind of the same process. They say, hey, I want to staff my own polling place. We'd send them the link. All of these folks need to be election officers, of course. And so it goes 2 ways, right? So it could be, I have a location and we want to staff our own, or I want to be a location and staff my own, or hey, my team and we want to adopt one of your locations, and so we assign them based on the information provided to one of the locations, because as you know, we have many polling locations that are not a part of this program yet, and so we're giving them the option to either sign up for the location they already currently have on file with our office, or to be assigned one that we have that doesn't have an Adopt a Poll team assigned to it, and that's how this program will be implemented and how we'll move forward with it. Keep in mind, Solano County shared, first election they had like 2, next election they had like 4, and then 8, and then 12, and they were able to fully implement it, but it took from about 2016 till now for them to make that transition over. So this is something we will actively work on and continue to move forward with. I know it's something important to Supervisor Dean and to my office, and so we want to make sure that we're doing all we can. The question is how can you help us? You can share the information we have available so that they can sign up. I'm hoping to create the QR code that associates it, so they can just scan the QR code and it'll take them right to the application. So that's something we're looking into with flyers and cards and different things to add. So any questions on that, I guess?
Yeah, I have a question. Did I hear you right? You say you guys are currently serving 3 new polling locations?
We had 3 people that applied to be a polling location, but there's a process involved where we have to actually go out and do a survey to ensure that they're ADA compliant, or that we can mitigate it to make it ADA compliant. But again, as we go into the consolidations, I mean, those locations will be utilized in the event that we need a polling place in that location. So if they signed up next door to someone's polling location that we've used for years, we'd probably go with the one that's known to the voters, for the sake of giving the voters that familiarity.
Thank you.
Any members of the committee have any questions? Thank you for the information. I'm really happy to see that it's up and on the website, and we're getting people applying for it. Question is anyone from your office actively seeking out meetings or groups to go speak on this to? And if not, can any member of the public go out and speak to a group and encourage people to sign up for this?
Absolutely, it's public information, and I'm always willing. If you all have a location, like you all have my number and my card, if you have somewhere that you'd like me to speak, I'm happy to do that. Of course, it's all contingent on is there space on my calendar to do that. So if someone else is already booked, I mean, I'm doing these, I can do these presentations. We just have to get it on the schedule is what I would say. So just call me and let me know. It doesn't have to be me. We can make arrangements for our outreach team to go out. We can give you materials if you want to do a presentation on it. We're happy to work with you to do that.
Yes.
I was invited to speak to the Kiwanis, the Greater Kiwanis of Lodi last week, and so in my report, I mentioned this program to them, and they were very interested in doing a couple. So anytime you're out and about in the community talking to anyone, and just feel free to mention it. You can always send them then the links, and so.
That's good. Is there any limit or prohibitions on what type of organizations can sign up for this program?
There is no limitations to who can sign up. So something in our state that we cannot do is we can't ask workers their party affiliation. So we wouldn't ask that if they can sign up and be an election officer and they meet the criteria to be an election officer. One thing I would caution is anybody that is on Megan's Law, they obviously couldn't work at a school location or anything like that. So there are some limitations there. But outside of that, pretty much anybody can do this. Something my outreach team, sorry to interrupt here, but the outreach events, they're actually offering Adopt a Poll at all of their events as well. So they just slid me a note to remind me of that. So they did over 20 public events this last year. So anytime they're out in the community over the weekend doing anything like Asparagus Festival or anything like that, they are sharing that information.
And then is it required that group organization be the one signing up, or can it be just an individual or, a couple individuals that sign up to do this?
We would accept anybody that wants to participate. We wouldn't outline somebody because they don't have an official club. And now I would say something that we shared in here is that if a club officially signs up, or even a person that wants to be a team leader, I guess, we would make sure that they get recognition for doing that.
Any other comments or questions from the committee?
How many polling stations are allowed for Lodi?
So I'm glad you asked that question. So I looked at the data of our polling locations and how many voters actually attended locations in the last election. And so we had 14 locations that actually had more than 200 voters, and 5 of those that I'm aware of were in the city of Lodi. And so our goal is to provide a couple more locations in Lodi because it seems like there's a big presence of in-person voters. So we want to make sure that they're getting the service that they desire. And so we are going to look into the ability to maybe add a couple over there so that anywhere that we did see these high turnout polling locations, that we're providing enough locations for them to be able to be taken care of. We have to be mindful though, because in 61 locations, we had less than 50 voters. And so we need to be mindful of, we're not gonna get rid of a polling place, but we wouldn't focus on adding polling places in those areas as much as we would the high turnout areas.
So what about Manteca and Tracy?
Off the top of my head, if they're over 200, we're looking to add if need be. If it's less than 200 voters that turned out, then we'll go down the list is basically what it will. And it also depends on consolidations. It's a very intricate process. And so once we do the consolidation of precincts based on the criteria and the numbers and all of that, we will know those answers. We previously, in the last primary, had 127 locations. In the general, we had 178. We know we could do upwards of 200, but we need to be mindful of not having 200 polling places where we have 3 voters showing up, because we also have to be mindful of the cost that impacts the tax dollars on that.
So that brings up another good point that I would like to ask about. So let's say, in the city of Manteca, we have already the minimum number of polling places assigned and out that you would have in an election, and we have organizations or individuals that have signed up to adopt additional polling places, would you then consider adding more, even if we're already at the minimum level set?
So it's not really a minimum level, it's really based on the specific criteria and how many ballot types we have. There's a lot that goes into it, and so we wouldn't be against adding a polling place, but again, if it's a low turnout area, we wouldn't want to have 4 polling places where we know we have less than 50 voters turning out. So we'd be mindful of that, and I mean, I'm happy when we go through our consolidations process to bring you in if you're interested to see how we do our precinct consolidations. I think it's kind of a cool process, and then I can show you in detail with my subject matter experts how they reach the conclusion of how many polling locations.
So I'd already shared the link with a friend of mine I know while I looked it up. And they had said if I was not already working the polls as an election official, would I be right to, would he be able to have one in his garage?
If it meets the ADA compliance, and I'll tell you now, it's very difficult to make garages ADA compliant. I'm not saying it's not possible, because there are some that are flatter surfaces, but most of the time the garage curve is not accessible, and so we've over the years you've seen us get away from actually using people's private homes because of ADA compliance. Not because we don't want to use their homes, but because we have to provide the ADA compliance as well.
Okay, well, he wouldn't be able to, he's got too much stuff stored in it, but just have.
We'll have him fill out if he wants to clear out his garage, he just fills out the polling location request form, and then my staff will reach out to him and set it up so they could go out and do a survey.
Okay.
Because there's another option, just because there's a curve with the slope, there are things that we could do and pieces of equipment we have to help mitigate. So if they're interested, send them our way and we'll get the ADA survey done.
I have a question. So how is your office at the county? Okay, I can understand, okay, solicit, show them if you want more information on how to do this and yada, 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 here's our website. I mean, that's very easy, right? What's your can you elaborate more on like your marketing effort, like the campaign to outreach and get more people to, if they want to do this, adopt a poll, as opposed to just basically, oh, here's the website, so convoluted, a lot of hyperlinks there if they're not very savvy or proficient. Is there any other methods? I mean, how are you deploying these tactics, or are you just sticking to the same playbook in previous years? You know what I mean? Just maybe sending out a mail solicitation. Are you guys doing spamming text kind of to people's phones and letting them know? I mean, social media tactics, anything like that?
So our budget is determined the year prior, so we don't get to just go take 100,000, 500,000 and throw it at advertising. We have a set budget for that, and so as we're going through our normal marketing campaign that we do, we will include this information. We're not in a position where we can just do like this huge marketing campaign on it. What we can do is utilize our social media. We can utilize press releases. The Record called and was asking questions yesterday, and I actually told them, hey, we're doing this really cool Adopt a Poll. So every opportunity we get as a government organization, we're going to do our very best to do that. Now, we can look at in a following year, based on recommendations that the board wants to give a certain allocation for Adopt a Poll when it comes to budgeting for that. Am I correct on that? I think so, Josh. Yeah, okay. So.
Thank you.
Question about, let's say someone signs up for this and they offer their location they have in mind for this. Do ultimately they get to choose where they host this, or is it assigned by your office to where an organization or an individual would have their polling location sponsored or adopted?
You're asking, can it be any location?
Well, if someone applies for it and, they have a specific location in mind, is it, to that person, do they get that location because that's the one they wanted, or is it possible that they'll get like assigned a different one by your office if it gets approved?
It would be on a first come, first serve. So example, there's a fire station down the street and I want to work there and you want to work there and we both decide to be team leaders, but they've assigned me first because I applied first, then it would be that. Then you wouldn't just get to steal theirs, if that's what you mean. And then if you had a specific location that you want to staff, we would, if it's not one of our already current polling locations, we would go out and do the survey and hopefully determine that we could use it. If we weren't able, we wouldn't just tell them no. We'd say, hey, we're not able to use the site you wanted to use, but we can assign you to something close by if you would like.
Yeah, I think that's, what I was kind of getting at. I mean, for example, if I went with my church and wanted to use my church as a polling place, applied for it, and, I'd want to know if I would get told, by the end of the process, well, your church didn't work, but, we'll assign you to the other side of town. I didn't know if that was ultimately what could happen in that scenario.
Right, and so the goal is to have all of the identified yes polling locations before we enter consolidation so we can assign them at that time. So we are shortened on the timeline, so anybody that doesn't make the cutoff before we can assign them for this election, we would encourage them for November. E70, what is that? Or not E70, like E80? It's going to be late, it's gonna be December 16th, right there is gonna be the cutoff. Is that right?
So all these adopt-a-poll places have to be in by December?
They would have to apply for the program and let us know now so that we would be able to utilize them. I mean, we always have, sometimes we have last minute ads if somebody drops out or we get a call, our church burnt down, we're not gonna be able to have it here, then of course, like we do have small instances. But our goal, we also have to get that list out to the Secretary of State by a certain time. So we try to get them established during the consolidation period before we're sending out materials to voters. And we start sending out materials as early as E60, which is 60 days prior to the election, for UVA-CAVA voters, which are the overseas military. So our goal is to have all of that established by that time.
December what?
December, is it 16th or 18th? Whatever that Monday is, I think it might be December 18th. Is that it? 16th is a Saturday, so it's the 18th, December 18th. That's when we'll be doing our selections that week.
Is that when you said you could have the public, we could come and watch how you do it?
Yeah, absolutely.
So it would be on that Monday?
That Monday, we will begin the process. So it depends on how long it takes our GIS team to complete consolidations. They'll start right after December 13th, so they'll have that Thursday and Friday, and then we will roll into Monday if we need to, and then it kind of goes. As soon as they're done, we continue the process, we get those locations, and then we just really moving down the line of our election calendar at that point.
To Dave's example, right? He mentioned that if he has a location for like a church, right? So first come, first served basis, right? But there are constrictions, right? To your point, I heard ADA, it has to be ADA compliant.
Right.
Okay. Will the public be open? This has to do with transparency. The serving aspect, the serving portion. You go to a location, a possible location, right, for an adopt-a-poll program. Will that process and the actual serving of the location be open and transparent for the public to come and see how?
Oh yeah, you can come see, absolutely, if you wanted to. We've never had anyone attend those, but we do keep the documentation on all polling place surveys, and that data is available in our office. We do keep
The
track of that.
criteria,
Yeah.
what you're looking for.
Well, the criteria is set by the state, but what we have is we have the surveys we've done on every single location. It's attached to that location's profile, so we have that information available. So if you could attend and you wanted to go out and meet them there and see, I guess you could. I've never had that request, but if you were just wanting to see the ADA survey, we have it could be requested through a PRA if you wanted to.
Thank you.
So just to clarify, help for my understanding, so the deadline is the 18th of December or the 16th of December?
The
to apply?
18th of December is Monday.
Okay. Is that date on the webpage?
It's not, actually.
Okay.
It's not because we don't want to really put a date out there because these folks can still sign up for November potentially. So we would let them know when they contact us that, you know, we've reached all of our staffing for the December or for the March 5th election, but we're continuing to take applications for the November election. So no one would be turned away, but they may be told that we've filled all the positions for the May or the March 5th election, so.
I mean, just a thought, I mean, it might be useful to put it on there just in case there's someone who applies on December 19th thinking they can still, you know, qualify for the primary and then they are not aware they're a day late or 2 days late, whatever it might be. So I don't know if that's something that could be added, but that would just be my.
Well, if I need, my concern would be if I need, like, if something happens and I need 2 or 3 additional, I wouldn't want to, like, set a hard deadline because I don't want to discourage somebody from applying. And what I will say is that once they've filled this application out, they will be contacted by my office within 24 hours to clarify that, if that makes sense.
Any other questions or comments from the committee? Oh, Nicole?
Is December 18th the day that, I heard 2 things. So I heard apply now, because we want to know, we want to have everything solidified by December 18th. So you want to have all applications in by December 18th, or the decisions for the polling locations are decided by that? I'm just,
So December
clarification.
18th is when we'll be beginning the consolidation piece and adding the polling places, and that process could take 1 to 5 days. I've seen it take 2 weeks. We hope that it doesn't take 2 weeks, but it just depends on what's happening during that consolidation. There's a lot, depending on how many candidates file, what's actually going to ballot. There's a lot of factors that come into play. So, but by December 18th, if we know they want to participate, we should be able to get them in to participate.
and then I had another question regarding back on drop boxes, because we're talking about we want to do polling locations based on where there were large numbers of people voting. Is there any consideration like that taken into the drop boxes? Like drop boxes, there were a lot of ballots in this one, but not in that one, so we don't need that one. I don't know if there's any kind of same synergy or strategy on that.
Well, the ask was to add more polling places, and so we're looking at a strategic way we can do that, that makes sense in compliance with the election code and also in compliance with the fact that we're not just creating a polling place and no one's going to show up to utilize that place. The drop boxes have been the set 25. We have data showing 50,000 voters have utilized those, and so we're still putting out our drop boxes. We can monitor more closely going into this next cycle, but there hasn't been a thought to just remove a drop box. They're very strategic to allow access to the community throughout the county, and so the way they're placed is to give those rural communities their drop boxes and then to take into consideration where the dense population is, and so drop boxes are a separate thing from polling places. We don't treat them as they're like the same thing.
So you could have drop boxes that don't have any ballots come in them, for example, potentially.
I'm not aware of a drop box that had no ballots coming
Okay.
from it.
Okay. On this item, would we allow for public comment, or will we just move on since public comment is the next agenda item?
If you're inclined, you can allow for public comment. The public comment that's agendized after would be for items that have not been agendized for the committee's consideration.
Thank you. So we'll open it up to public comment. Is there anyone that would like to speak to this specific agenda item? Okay. Yeah, please come up. And 3 minutes.
Better? There we go.
State your name, please.
I was just going to. I'm Carla Huney, and I'm a citizen of San Joaquin County. Okay, so I'm a little confused here. What is the criteria for adopt a polling place? Is it all on there? So you've given us a cutoff date when you're going to start reviewing, but you have no cutoff dates for people to apply. And I understand what you said, if you don't have enough, you want to leave it open, but we have to have some kind of point to, if people are running, we all have stuff to do. So if it's a last minute thing, there needs to be like a cutoff or a soft cutoff in there. Otherwise, that just doesn't make any sense. So prior to 2019, we had over 400 polling places. There were no drop boxes. That was all because of COVID. I want to get back to 400, 450, and we need to start advertising because we spent that $2 million on equipment to go into polling places so people could vote in person. There was nothing wrong with it in 2019. There's nothing wrong with it in 2024. People have gotten lazy, yes, but we don't advertise it either. We have, like you said, 127 for the primary. We have 178 for 2022. I want to see it back over 400. As far as surveillance goes, there was just a video released about a woman stuffing the boxes that were put outside that were 24/7. So and I know this is not about drop boxes, but I want people, the safest way to vote is to do it in person. I need you all to start thinking about, we need to advertise stuff. People don't know. People don't go to websites all the time. They need to have there's a billboard where it's electronic billboards. We have those all over the county now. We need to get that done. Okay, let's see. And then when you say sponsor a polling place, and that I don't mean to go down this path, but this is the worst one. So it's okay if the KKK wants to sponsor a polling place. Just asking. Okay. And I think that's about it. Thank you.
Any other members of the public? Please state your name at the beginning.
Okay. Good evening, David. My name is Jackie. I'm sorry, I have laryngitis. Jackie Lachlan Shaw. My mother was a poll inspector, and so I became a poll inspector when I was in Orange County. And being a school teacher, sure enough, we found fraud of illegals in harvest cheating. And so they were ones that looked like they voted twice. A Cuban American said, 3 minutes. A Cuban American said, they took my ballot and told me to come here. And I said, sir, your name is not on our poll site. And he says, it's that, So, for voter integrity versus fraud on illegals, now 7 million in harvest cheating and others. Like what happened at Lodi City Councilman, they found a pile of phony ballots. As poll inspector, we proved fraud, and that was at a 2-hour state deposition. Non-citizens from the border concerning citizenship to show state driver's license with same full name, and because people have 2 different names, same residential address, or they could vote 2 counties, 2 states. As with absentee ballots, so I encourage people to file an absentee ballot if they want to drop it in a U.S. post office box and add 70-cent stamp or something. How soon can we add USPS to any I didn't know you were supposed to talk about drop boxes, but it's shocking at 20 drop boxes, and that's where you had fraud. So the friendly neighborhood poll is what you were talking about tonight. So thank you for that. Onward, I hope we can get more people at friendly neighborhood. We don't need poll watchers. We need poll workers, poll inspectors who learn the rules and keep it an honest election. So thanks for your meeting on more poll sites. Thanks.
Perfect timing. Do we have any member of the public, specifically again on this agenda item, that would like to speak? Okay. And then any final comments or questions from the committee? Okay. So at our next meeting, excuse me, would it be possible to keep this on the agenda? Because I'd like to still hear a follow-up on this topic, on progress as of, the next meeting.
David, for the committee comments, do we want to solicit any other agenda items from the committee members while we're here?
I mean, we can do it at that point if that works. I'm just throwing the question out there on this one, but
We can put this on the next agenda as well.
yeah.
And Chair, if you have specific direction in terms of what you would like reported back on or what information the committee is interested in hearing, I think it would be appropriate for you to provide that direction to staff, if you are inclined to do so right now.
Okay, I think that's it for this. Yeah, sorry.
I took a Toastmaster class, and every time you say, they ding you, and it's like every time I forget to hit this
I
button,
did
I know
too.
I'm looking at you.
I did too.
When you said, other items to bring back on this thing, when she was talking about, watchers versus workers, could we bring that? Because, I didn't see there was a distinction, but apparently some people have, so maybe we should make some clarification on it, if there is or there isn't.
Yeah, I agree, and I also, to piggyback off of Christian's point about marketing and how we're getting this information out there, I think that'd be something that I would like to hear from as well, just because I do agree that it is difficult. I think the average voter, the average person probably doesn't know about this, and I think, I go with that, we do need to have a better plan for getting this out there, getting this aware, making that known. So I would like to hear on that as well, if we could. Okay, we will move on to public comment. So any members of the public wishing to speak on items not on the agenda may do so. If you haven't filled out a comment card yet, who has the cards? You can get one right up there. If you have a card, if you haven't turned it in, bring it up, or I can look out here and see who would like to speak first. Yeah.
Good evening, my name is Holly Moore. If I saw a house on fire and I went to a fire station and I told the fireman about it, what would his reaction be? Oh my God, I need to deal with this immediately. If we told the ROV that there's a problem, for instance, people who had 1850 birth years, what should her reaction be? Oh my God, that's awful, we have dirty rolls. We need to clean that immediately. But what was her reaction to 1850 birth years? Oh, we've had that since the 1970s. Okay, that's not the answer I want to hear. They knew about this problem and they had 50 years to fix it and they didn't. Need to have immediate action on those kind of things. We expect fast action on dead people being removed from voter rolls, and not just move to the canceled voter rolls, because there's several different voter rolls if you didn't know that. They moved the dead voter rolls to the canceled voter rolls, and somehow mysteriously, dead people are being moved back onto the active voter rolls, and they're being able to vote again. They need to be removed entirely from the rolls and not just put on a different roll. At this point, I should hear Olivia say, "Oh my God, how are dead voters being moved back?" Or, "How did 3 times the number of people who live in Lodi's District 4 vote? How is that even possible?" Or, "Mules are using our drop boxes? How can I stop that? Illegal aliens are on the voter rolls? That's against the law and against the Constitution. How can I remove them?" Thank you so much for bringing those things to attention. I'm going to jump on that right away. We've been bringing up these problems for the past year and a half, and they've been refused to be looked into. In fact, we got fought about the mule video, and we had to threaten the county to sue to get it. We had to threaten suing. Let me read California Elections Penal Code 18002. Every person charged with the performance of any duty under any law of this state relating to elections, which is Ms. Hale, who willfully neglects or refuses to perform it, or who, in the person's official capacity, knowingly and fraudulently acts in contravention or a violation of any of these laws, is, unless a different punishment is prescribed by this code, punishable by fine not exceeding $1,000 or by imprisonment pursuant to subdivision section 1170 of the Penal Code for 16 months or 2 or 3 years, or both that fine and imprisonment. We know that Ms. Hale doesn't want to go to jail or be fined for refusal to perform her job, which is in part to clean the voter rolls and also to look into voter fraud. We found the problems for you, and we've even given you the solutions. No more refusing. Start acting like a fireman and put out those fires of fraud. Thank you.
Okay, our next speaker. We have one?
Hi, Molly Watkins. I was late to the meeting, but I know you didn't discuss this topic. So at the supervisors meeting on Tuesday, the office asked to have their temporary worker contract approved. And it had been brought up once before. And when it came to the table, it's a company in San Jose or Santa Clara, so it's out of our area. The ROV says she needs to hire temporary people to work the elections. This particular temp company is a tech temp company. So I find it kind of odd because we're told 600 times from here to Tuesday that our machines are not online. There's no reason that we need any tech people. We have a contract with Hart Civic. They are the computer company, or they are the election company that this county is using. We have a service contract with those folks. So I would say when you spit 2.5 million, whatever the magic number is, that they come and service the machines. So why do you need people outside the county? When I raised the question and said, sitting in the chambers upstairs, I could find 4 local companies right here that pop up on my phone. And the answer to that was that, no, we really need this company. Well, when I researched this company, it's an international company. It has a CEO and people in India. That raises the hair on the back of my neck. I find that to be quite strange. Again, why do we need a company like that hiring people? We also have the county website that has a job fair, job net, whatever that word title is for it. Can we not find the people there? She said we only needed 40 people. Doesn't sound that difficult to me. Anyway, I wanted you to be aware of that issue. Thank you.
Okay. Another speaker? No other speakers? Going once? Okay. We will go ahead and close public comment. And we will move on to number 6, registrar of voters' comments.
Prior to at the last meeting, we were asked to see the signature verification training that we give. We brought that documentation this evening to share, but if it's okay with Vice Chair that we bring those documents next meeting, because then we will be able to agendize them under consent, which would probably be more appropriate, and we can hand those out at that time. That way it's more transparent to the public, if that's okay.
So since I wasn't here last time, can you briefly just go over what the documents are?
So we actually work with the California election officials and clerks, and they provide a training for signature verification that we send all of our staff to. So recently, all of our staff attended the training. So I just brought it's just the PDF of the PowerPoint showing the different things that they look at, and then a document from the Secretary of State breaking down what we're looking at and what the elections code requires. And so it's just papers to share that information with the committee. Again, if we put it under consent, then it'll get posted on the website, and I think it would be more transparent to provide it at that time.
I agree, because half the people aren't here anyway, so we'd have to show it over again.
And then at this time, I have no further comment.
Well, we're going to go into committee comments right now. Or do you want to ask about that, Christian?
Thanks, Vice Chair. I kind of want to piggyback on the recommendation that you had capitulated to Olivia about the marketing effort. So that way we're both on the same page of what we're asking of her, right? So this is just my point of view. I guess what I'm somewhat stumped on is what is I want an elaboration on from your office on what exactly is your marketing effort to when you go to solicit for this Adopt a Poll program versus just like, okay, well, we have our website. What organization doesn't have a website, right? Okay, here you go, here's a website, and then just fool around with it and then find something that says Adopt a Poll. Nowadays, people are not that savvy, okay, all right, and they're not computer proficient. So my point being is on the marketing effort, right? Because you just heard public comment earlier from Carla saying we don't advertise as much. That goes in tandem with marketing, basically. If you don't know how to get the word out and you're still deploying the same playbook method, and I can understand, budget constraints that you have your hand is fixed, okay? But we can think outside the box these days because, there's so many ways of getting a message around as opposed to just sticking to the same playbook. So I guess if we're on the same wavelength here, right? Can you elaborate more what your office is doing in your marketing efforts, in your marketing campaign efforts to advertise and get more people to adopt the poll program? Is that safe to say? Thank you.
Patricia? Oh, sorry.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what is new for our office? It sounds like kind of what you're asking. So we've added all 3 social media platforms. We have Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter, or X as it's called now. So we are pushing this messaging on there starting Monday. We will ask that they push it as much as they possibly can. Daily, they could put it out there. So that's one thing that we're doing. We added bus advertisements, so we utilize the RTD buses. That's something that's new that we've done in the last election cycle of 2022. We know that this is what was done prior to my time here and prior to Heather Diddy for that 5 years. But prior to her, there was newspaper and radio ads, and nobody really gets on the radio like that anymore. And so we want to make sure we're looking at where we're seeing the traffic, and it is social media, whether we all believe it or not. My grandfather's on social media harassing every post of mine that he can find just to say, hey, I love you. So we know that people are utilizing it. So I think the biggest thing that we have that it's not going to cost a lot of dollars is utilizing the social media platforms. Is something that we did recently. There was a PIO appointed for the Board of Supervisors, and so I've been working with her on how we can update our social media policy so that we're able to do some of the boost posts and different things like that. So we are actively looking at how we can make our presence on social media much stronger. And then we are utilizing the busing, the bus signage, and then of course we also, something that we did in the last 2 elections is we do billboards, the digital billboards. So you'll actually look throughout the county. And something that was tough for me is after the election was over, like we were like, hey, take those down. The election's over. We don't want that stuff out there after the election. So those are the new things that we're doing. I know that there's more we can look at, but currently we've added to our budget to be able to do those things in the last couple of years.
What about, not smishing, but like texting?
So we
So that-
can't actually text because of privacy laws. We can't just force people to accept that. And we don't have a lot of phone numbers on our voter rolls or email addresses. Now, something that actually our AROV just brought up to me yesterday is what about doing a monthly newsletter where people could sign up and they could get information from us? So we're actually looking into maybe doing a newsletter. So that's one option that we have available to us. But you can't just send people messages without their permission. And that's one thing that got caught up in legislation is they wanted to require us to do cures through text messaging and stuff. Well, there's limitations to what we can do, and we can't just put that information out there and push text messages without a person's permission.
QR codes?
QR code, I think, for our website, when they are, or not the website, but when they're pushing out the social media, that we can establish a QR code that they can put out there so people can get to that link for our website to do the application sooner. And then just something to kind of highlight, the outreach events, they did high school voter education week where they attended several high schools in our county and shared information. And then, of course, we are going to do some TV advertising this time. We're looking into what that looks like and what we can do within the confines of what we're budgeted for.
You finished?
I'm done, thank you.
You said radio stations, and I know our community college and our university has radio stations and young people. So I'd like to see, or I'd like to suggest that maybe, because you don't have to pay them, they can't do that, it's against the FCC. So if you could just ask them, bless you, if you can just ask them to start putting some promotion out there for voting and get some young people involved. The other thing is, so I played this stupid little game, you know, it's a mind thing, you know, on the phone, and it has tons of ads. But you eat them, you sit there for 15 seconds or 30 seconds staring at an ad. Those are, I heard from one of our county supervisors, those come out pretty cheap to pop up. I've seen one of our board of supervisors who was running 2 years ago had him on there. I'm like, where'd he come from? He just popped up in the middle of my game, right? So you might even ask him to see how much he paid to have his advertisement.
Yeah, we'll look into it, definitely.
And I think too, if it hasn't already been considered, but streaming, Spotify, I mean, I know they have ads on there. And I know a lot of young folks take that route as far as music. So
YouTube.
yeah, YouTube. Yeah. So just a couple other suggestions if it hasn't already been explored, but might be a good route. Okay, we'll move into committee comments, number 7. I'll go ahead and just start on this side. So Janice, do you have any comments?
Yeah, I'm very curious, how do you clean up the voter roll? And maybe we could have that on the agenda someday. Because I mean, we can talk about ballot boxes and polling places, but if we have an inflated voter roll, like Lodi apparently does, it would be interesting to have that on the agenda and maybe get a report on that. And the solution to cleaning up the rolls. I thought dead people just were removed, not moved, but removed.
Every single voter, when they're removed, they're put in the cancel vote. They're a canceled voter. We don't add canceled voters back unless they've contacted and re-registered to vote. We just actually had about, I think it was 30,000 people removed from the rolls because they haven't participated in the last 2 elections, and they were sent a card saying, hey, you've been moved to inactive status. You need to contact our office. We do receive a report from public health whenever there is a death and those people are removed. Just to clarify, the 1850 birth date has actually decreased significantly over the years. We were down to 64 last time I checked, and so we're continuing to monitor that number. If the person never responds to our card, if they've never moved and they're still, we can't just remove them. We can't it doesn't work that way. There's laws, rules, and regulations. And then at the first meeting that you all held, I actually did a comprehensive presentation on the voter rolls that included the information that was submitted to the sheriff's office outside of the con case. At that time, I wasn't reporting on the con case because it is still an open investigation. Therefore, we're not really speaking. My office is not, the sheriff has the authority to do that. That's not something that I would have the authority to do. But outside of that, we are taking all of the measures. We are doing what we're supposed to do. We're sending out cards. Every single voter in this county received a pre-election residency card to confirm if there was somebody living at their address, they just check the box and send it back to us. So there is a lot of work that does go into that, and we did share that at the prior meeting. I think it was the June meeting that was provided, June or July.
You can't take, if his birthday is 1850, you can't just remove that? Because you know he's not gonna respond.
If, the thing is they were grandfathered in because they were registered to vote prior to 1971. So that's the reason. You can't just remove them when there was a law prior that they didn't have to provide a birth date. So those are people that registered before they were required to provide a birth date. But we are monitoring those actively and hoping to see that number go to 0 at some point.
Janice, any other questions? Amy?
I just had a question, Olivia, in regards to the public comment. What is the temp agency that was is going to be used?
System Soft Technologies, and they've been used for several elections.
Okay. That's all I have.
Christian?
No questions, thank you.
Christina?
No questions.
Patricia? No? Nicole?
No question.
No? Okay. Yeah, I just, again, this will be the last time that I piggyback on this point tonight, but just, again, talking about the marketing and, being proactive, I think, is kind of what we're getting at, instead of kind of waiting for folks to find this on their own, just making a sustained effort to get out there and let people know. I think this will become a really great program for this county, and just like Solano, I think we can be a great leader on this and something that other counties look towards as a way of successfully increasing voter participation. I just think being proactive is definitely the way to go there. I had a question because I saw this recently in Stanislaus County, where I saw that their registrar was sending out postcards to folks who are members of a particular party who, I should say it this way. So folks who are NPP, no party preference, who in the March primary would not be able to pick and choose which presidential primary they could vote on unless that party allows NPPs to vote. And I saw that they were sending out postcards to members, to NPP voters, just as a reminder that, if they wanted to vote, I forget which specific parties. I know it was more than one. I think it might be Green Party or Republican Party, might be the two, there might be three parties that don't allow independents to vote in their presidential primary. So I saw that the Stanislaus registrar was sending out postcards to those voters as a reminder and saying that they could re-register if they wanted to vote in those parties' presidential primaries. Is that something that we're doing here?
We're required by law. They're called the crossover card. Ours will be hitting the mail stream in about 10 days, so ours are going out as well. We did the pre-election residency card because we are a traditional polling place, and so we wanted to let those pre-election residency cards trickle back in before we actually sent out crossover cards in case there were any updates that we needed to add. So ours are going out. It'll just be a little bit behind Stanislaus.
Okay, so, and that happens every primary election?
Happens every primary election. 90 days prior to the election, those cards go out usually, and then the registrar has the the ability to send them out around that time frame. So we are sending ours out just in 10 days. So.
Okay. Any final comments, questions from the committee? Okay, so we'll go ahead and move on to scheduling our next meeting. I do think, this is just my thought and we can take it from there, but I do think it would be beneficial to have at least one more meeting prior to the end of this year, since I think there's still information that we can talk about as it relates to the primary, and I think the sooner we can talk about that, the better. So who would be open to having a meeting in December, and what dates? Christian?
First week of December? The first week of December? So the 7th, Thursday?
Vice Chair Cushman?
Yes.
I believe at our last meeting, Chair Amador indicated we wouldn't be meeting in December, we would be meeting in January. So just as a reminder to the
That is
group.
correct.
Yeah.
He did say that.
Okay, yeah, again, I wasn't, so, yeah. What is the consensus? I'm open to how the group feels. Do we want to still meet one more time this year, or wait until January? I've given my thoughts on it, so.
Flip a coin.
I prefer January.
Any other thoughts?
No.
I'm open to December too, like you. That's
Yeah.
fine.
I'm open to December, but if we want to do early January, that would be fine as well. The first week of January after New Year's, so 3rd, 4th, or 5th, or 3rd or 4th?
Thursday the 4th?
Thursday, January 4th,
Yes, sir.
6 p.m.
Roger that.
Okay. Our next meeting will be Thursday, January 4th at 6 p.m. in this building.
Do we make a motion to adjourn?
Is there a second?
I second that. Oh.
No.
Well, second.
Okay. It's moved and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? All right, meeting adjourned at 7:08. Thank you, everyone.